All right. Good morning and welcome to our live version of our college squash interview series. We've had 2 episodes so far the last couple weeks. So if you haven't seen those, please check them out on YouTube and SoundCloud. But we have an extra special guest today. He was just inducted last week into the College Squash Hall of Fame. You all know him as the men's head coach at Trinity College. It is Paul Assaiante. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited for our little chat today.
Good morning. Although you told me I was the first in this series, I didn't realize I was the third.
So you're the first live interview that we're doing, and hopefully, if this goes well, then we'll do many more.
Careful for what you wish for.
That's right. That's right. But it's great to have you. Congratulations again on your induction into the College Squash Hall of Fame. Well deserved, and we heard from some of our users and our those who contributed to the award show on Thursday night that they felt like this was long overdue. So we're excited that you're in, and I know that you will resist this as much as possible. But I'm hoping to really, I'd like to focus on you in particular. You know, there are so many different topics that we can cover on a chat like this. But in particular, I want to congratulate you and celebrate you and give you an opportunity to kind of share some of your thoughts in reference to the Hall of Fame induction and your career. So let's jump right in. How does it feel now that you've certainly I'm guessing you may have thought this was coming at some point, but how does it feel that it's here now?
Well, it is an honor. I mean, I have to tell you, it's an honor. Those are it kind of stops you in your tracks to think that I might be joining some of the people that are already in the College Squash Hall of Fame, right? That kind of blows your mind, because you look at those people and you say, wow, well, look what they've done. It's interesting, you know, David, I've been in this business now for 44 years. And when I first started coaching, I thought that your measure of your success as a coach was rings and banners and throwing out first pitches and that sort of thing. And really the first half of my career, maybe more than that, was geared toward those achievements. And it was pretty empty. And then I was able to shift my focus to remembering or understanding that what we do is really providing student athletes the opportunity through sport to develop and become more equipped as adults. And when that becomes the goal, which is in my mind the appropriate goal, then the accolades and that stuff that you personally receive feels a little bit less. And particularly, you know, when you go into a Hall of Fame as a player, it's because of what you did. When you go in as a coach, it's really on the backs of what others did. And, you know, I really do honestly share this with Trinity and the players that have come through here, and, you know, the players that I coached at West Point and the players that I coached at Williams College. So I'm very, very lucky. I think about this. So what makes successful companies? You have to have the right institutional support. And Trinity is supportive in the recruiting area. And we get support. And then we're able to bring in super talented young people, and they perform. But, you know, I think of some of my colleagues out there. You know, a guy like Jamie King at Hamilton. That guy is amazing. And, you know, Jamie coaches for the love of the game. His players play the game for the love of the game. And Jamie King may never go into the College Squash Hall of Fame. I hope he does. But based on the criteria of why we do what we do, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And there's a whole cadre of people out there like that I'm proud and honored to call colleagues. So yeah, I feel very lucky to be in the Hall of Fame. but I have it in a perspective that it's nice.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely appreciate that. I totally agree. There are, so many coaches who work so hard and attract players to the game of all skill levels and really make it worthwhile. So I totally agree. I want to dive in a little bit more because you said that to me previously that, the coaches go in on the backs of the players. But there's something to be said for what attracts those types of players. How did at what point you mentioned this switch. What do you think switch did you make or philosophical change, and where and when did that happen that you started to think, well, now it's about the players and their futures, and that translated to that success? I mean, it wasn't just, they weren't just showing up because the courts were great or for any particular academic, they were there because of the program and something that you had built. So, what sort of changes did you make, or philosophical shift did you come about that made it click for you?
Well, on a personal level, Jim Zugg and I wrote a book.
Yep.
There are 3 themes in that book, but the primary theme to me was that it was an apology to my 3 grown children, because I was so busy trying to accomplish whatever it is I was trying to accomplish that my family suffered. And it's ironic when I speak to companies now, I'm the guru of work-life balance. Talk to us about work-life balance. And it's like, well, obviously you didn't read my book because I was admitting that I didn't have any work-life balance.
Right.
And so that was kind of a pivotal moment where for me to say, what are you doing, man? Some people are playing in the finals or the intercollegiate championships, but others are paying a price for this pursuit, this obsessive pursuit for success. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of backed me off a little bit. To be honest with you, the success that we've had here is a product of the melding of different cultures, religions, socioeconomic backgrounds, and just all of those differences come together, and it creates a family. We really do buy into that here. And, when you wake up in the morning, you think of yourself as a Caucasian in America. When you have a young man on your team who's a Muslim, when he wakes up in the morning, he sees himself as a Muslim.
Right.
The differences are so powerful. And when you learn to assimilate those things and celebrate the differences, then you create this dynamic, or you're a part of a dynamic, I don't think I've created it, where this extracurricular activity has become more than just playing squash from 4 to 6. This is their church. This is their temple. They want to be here. They come up here to study, hang out together. So we really never approached this individual sport as an individual sport. Always been about the team.
Yeah.
Almost to the point, I think our strength has also been our Achilles heel, because when you focus on team, and only team, the pressure on these young people seems to mount. I remember a few years ago, we had a young man, and I coached against him at the World Championships. He was the number 1 player from South Africa. And, so look, he's playing on a world stage, and we're getting ready to play against Harvard in the semifinals or the finals of the national championships. And he came up to me and he said, "Coach, I've never been so nervous in my life." Well, I have not done a very good job there, but that's what comes with the sense of team.
Yeah.
And, but that's what we have focused on, and that's made it different. And then when these young people go on and graduate, that connection remains for the rest of their lives. We're constantly communicating, and going to weddings, going to funerals, being godfather of children. I mean, my God, I tell everybody, don't make me your child's godfather. I have no money. You should pick someone that's going to be there for you. But so that's the stuff that comes with coaching that is profoundly beautiful.
Yeah.
And how lucky. I mean, how lucky for me to be in the middle of that vortex.
Yeah. So we published one of our interviews that we published so far was with Simba Mwadi, your player.
Man.
And he spoke very specifically to that point, the Trinity family, the credit that he gave to you and to Wendy and the Trinity administration for all the support that they've provided in bringing these. And he talked, one of the things he talked about was being able to attract players who love the game coming in and loved it even more going out. And I thought that was really profound because it's that may have been I don't know if that's still as present today, but with his generation, he felt like that was such a memorable part of his experience at Trinity.
Well, Sim is the poster child of everything that's good in the world and in the world of squash. Simba arrived here from Harare, Zimbabwe, in flip-flops and shorts. That day, we had a 3-foot snowstorm.
I bet, yeah.
And he was out there playing in the snow. He'd never seen it before. And when he played his last match at Trinity College, when it was over, he got down on his hands and knees and he kissed the tee goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And he stayed in the game. Well, it's a funny thing about life. A good idea will usually succeed. And a bad idea, no matter how hard you push, will never succeed.
Yeah.
And because of the international initiative that Trinity went on and bringing in people from diverse backgrounds, that has continued to bear fruit. Some of our guys have stayed in the game. Many of our guys have stayed in the game. They're affecting the future of American squash by working with juniors at these clubs. Nobody had an idea that was going to happen, but good ideas just keep breeding good things.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely impressive. Your I don't know if it referred to it as, it's not necessarily your coaching tree in a way, because your players have stayed involved in lots of different ways, but really the tree that sprouted from your efforts continues to pay dividends across the world, I think, in the squash community. So it's an incredibly phenomenal impact. I wanted one other question. Obviously you're known for the streak of championships, the streak of matches played. Do you remember a specific point along the way when you said to yourself, "Oh, I think we might have something here. I think this might be something really memorable and historic"?
It's funny. I didn't come to Trinity 27 years ago to win championships or anything like that. I came to work with young people, and then all of a sudden things started happening around me, and it was very important along the way that I never let myself get out and look in, because I would have lost where we were. It was a case of just staying in the moment and not getting too swept away. It's a funny thing. This has been a very nice thing for the college. It's been a very nice thing for the sport. But you know what? When it becomes more important to other people than it is to you, that starts to create a pressure if you allow yourself to listen. And so it was super fun. The ride has been super fun. But I never really thought, wow, this is special. It's a funny thing about competition. When you really genuinely love your players, and then they're in the competitive field, you want success so bad for them.
Yeah.
You want them to taste the success, bear the fruits of all of their hard efforts. The cool thing as a coach is we get to coach whether we win or lose. And point of fact, we actually do a lot more coaching when we lose.
Yeah.
but you don't want to lose because you want those guys to have that experience. And so it's been incredible. It's just been incredible. I think about the coaches that I got to work with, partners in competition. Dave Fish at Harvard was, amazing. And I have to tell you, what Mike Way is doing at Harvard today, I cannot emphasize enough what an astounding job he's doing and how that culture up there has changed. In the old days, and I hope I don't offend any Harvard alums out there, but in the old days, Harvard would beat the hell out of us and in the process make us feel badly about ourselves. Now they beat the hell out of us. But you know what? You shake their hand when it's over because there was a level of respect shown and to the game and to each other. That's Mike Way. That's Mike Way. And had some amazing battles with Dave Talbot along the way. And just that playful, competitive nature that he had. And nobody had a bigger influence in my life as a coach and competitor than Bobby Callahan. I will tell you that the greatest professional and personal honor of my life was speaking at his funeral. And just knowing that this man, he did it right. He did it for the right reasons. And, this kid from the Bronx is standing up at this podium in this, voluminous church on Nassau Street.
Yeah.
And so the coaching and competition has been so rich and fulfilling. And I'm not done yet. Mike, we're coming after you again, buddy.
I was going to give you the opportunity to, obviously Dave, very kind words about Bob. Obviously Dave is retired now.
Gilly Lane, look what Gilly's doing. Gee,
yeah, totally.
Dave Palmer. These people are Martin Heath. Are you kidding me? That guy has outcoached me every time we've played.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. One of the other things Simba talked about was how, during the streak, Chanel pressed him on it a little bit, that there was that pressure to maintain and keep, for the players who had done it before and so on. And, Simba said how much he talked about losing and accepting what it meant to lose and what it meant for the game as a whole, for the streak to come to an end and for other teams to kind of have their level risen to the point where they're taking you down. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Super important. My wish had always been, when we got going, that I hope when it goes away, it's really because everybody else came up to the bar. I hope we didn't, take a slide back. And I'm telling you, when you look at the level of competition, and I'm not giving us credit for it, but when you look at the level of competition right now, the level is astounding. Yeah. The standard is just ridiculous. You can go to a PSA tournament, and you can go to Squash TV, or you can go to the CSA singles quarterfinals. There's not much difference there. The standard is so high. Whereas when you turn on Alabama football, that's impressive. But if you turn on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, those two games are totally different.
Right.
College squash is right there.
Yeah.
And so, it's so funny about the pressure in the street. I was driving down the road one day with Reggie Schomburn in my car. Reggie was from Bloemfontein, South Africa. God, I love that guy. Gilman Award winner, the best. And we were driving, and he looked at me, and he said, "Coach, what's going to happen when we lose?" And I was stunned at the genuine naivete. I felt all of a sudden instantly badly for him, that they were feeling that pressure. And the night that we lost was at Yale. And they had that place packed. And we lost, and the last man on court, Johann Dieter, was the brother of Gustav Dieter, who had the miracle match here when we won our 131st match. Mm-hmm. Well, the night that we lost at Yale, Johann Dieter was on the court, and we had 252 straight wins.
Right.
The explosion in That gym was incredible. And we walked all the way down to the other side to have a quick team meeting. And the noise kept going and going and going. And I looked at our guys and I said, listen to that. That's a 13-year celebration.
Yeah.
And good for them, man. How awesome is that? And now you're going to hold your heads up. You're going to walk out there. You're going to shake their hands. And you're going to tell them, well done. And tomorrow we're going to start again. And it was just awesome. That was awesome.
It sounds like an incredible experience. Maybe not for your guys at the time, but what an event. Have you always been this kind of eternal optimist and this positive thinker? And, how did you develop the kind of skills and self-awareness to, recognize that sort of moment and turn it on its head a little bit for these young players?
It all happened for me. Gymnastics was my sport, and I went to West Point to be the assistant gymnastics coach.
Right.
In 1972, the Olympic team was training at West Point, and I was there training, and they said, in 2 years when you graduate, we'll have a job here. Do you want it? I said, oh, yeah. So I went up to West Point, and there was a plaque on a trophy, and it's a MacArthur plaque. And the plaque says something along the lines that on the friendly fields of strife are sown the seeds that on later fields will bear the fruits of it. That was my aha moment. I thought, oh my goodness, we can, through sport, help people have more meaningful, richer, more successful lives. And that's a gift. And it's a gift where you really can't fail if you are genuinely there for them. If you're doing this for yourself, this is a disaster. And so that was my exciting moment. And I realized that every exchange and every interaction was an opportunity to teach. In sport, you learn how to win. You learn, more importantly, how to lose. You learn how to adjust on the fly. You learn how to strategize and you learn that it's not okay to lose your cool. You can't lose your cool on a squash court. You can't go home and lose your cool with your partner. These are the lessons that come through sport that are so important. And that celebration of passion and purpose, to me, was everything. There's a great quote I wanted to read. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. That, to me, is what coaching is all about. And so this has been so awesome.
I'd say that embodies your career fairly well.
I certainly try.
Well, I wanted to, you're pretty legendary. I know it's impacted my growth in this role. And I've known about you for a long time as a young player, just figuring out what squash was in college to following it as an administrator. You're pretty legendary for accepting pretty much anyone's phone call, just distributing advice as necessary or counsel, or just being an ear to listen. Simba and Chanel both referenced that in their interview as well. They all of us sort of can't understand how you field all the 20 phone calls a day you get from players and coaches and whatnot. But who do you turn to for who or what do you turn to for advice, or when you're struggling with somebody?
Boy, that's a great question. My hero was my father. He was the coolest dude ever. Not highly educated, not highly successful by worldly standards, but he was just a gentle soul. And he was the kind of guy that would walk across a field and not leave footprints. And I tried to live that way. He was funny. I'd call him with these thorny problems, and we would talk, and I would real gnash my teeth. And then he would say, okay, now I need to shift gears, and we need to talk about something important. I'd say, okay, Daddy, I can't keep my forehand in the court. What do you think's going on here? And he just found the humor in life. I'll tell you that my wife, Julia, is an amazing human being. I have no right having her in the house. And I met Julia when my father was leaving the world, and I've come to understand that he was his parting gift. Paul, you can't screw this one up, okay? Just, and she's a professor and super, super smart, and I can bounce stuff off of her because she gets me. She understands what I do. And, it's funny, if I'm supposed to be home at dinner at 7 o'clock and I have a student crying in the office, I can just text and say, and she totally understands. As I tell the boys on the team all the time, it's really important to fall in like. Falling in love is great and it's passionate, romantic and all, but like lasts forever.
Yeah.
And this woman likes me. I don't know why. And so, yeah, that's who I go to for guidance.
Nice. Yeah, I steal my former supervisor, great mentor of mine, Jackie Blackett at Columbia. She used to ask an interview question of who is your board of directors, your personal board of directors. That question always resonated with me. I was in thinking about all of the people that you have impacted, all the people who probably consider you a member of their board of directors, who sits on that board for you. And, anyone else, I'd be curious to hear.
It's interesting. Bobby was a very good sounding board for me. We would have these ridiculous matches. And then the next morning we would call each other. You okay? Everything okay? Are we good? Okay, good. Now let's get into it. The person that whole thing started with for me when I was coaching at Army, my best friend and mentor was Bobby Bayless, who was the coach at Navy, which is actually, you can get fired at West Point for even talking to people at Navy. But he was my mentor, and he actually, I have a plaque in this office somewhere. After 12 years at West Point, I left, and the Navy gave me this beautiful plaque, congratulating me. But I think they even offered to pay my salary if I would stay at West Point, because I almost never I don't think I ever beat Navy. And so, and it was ironic because when I went to Williams College to coach, our first match was against Navy. And we beat them 9-0. And I remember going to the coach and saying, it's amazing how much I've learned in a couple of years, isn't it? And so Bobby was amazing. And he taught me tremendous lessons that make great sense as leaders. One lesson I'll never forget, because I was a young guy. I was 24 years old, and I'm the head coach at West Point. And he said, Paul, you can always take walls down, but you can never put them back up. And he was right. We're not here to be their friends. If that's what we're doing, then how can we give them constructive criticism? It's almost impossible. I don't know how to do it. So, and that's why, and I know people look at me like, who are you crazy? I like people to call me coach because I want that divide. I want it to be clear that I'm here for you always and in any way, but we're in this environment, we're not friends. And then when they graduate, I shake their hands and say, now you can call me Paul. And they never do. But, I mean, David, think about it. Confucius says, he who loves what he does can never find work. Right. I've had some horrendous days, but I've never worked a day in my life. Mm-hmm. How lucky is that?
Absolutely. No, 100%. I wanted to ask, what's the secret? What advice or counsel can you impart to those who want to know how to get their college president to speak in the tribute video to them when they're going into the Hall of Fame? I mean, that's a pretty, it's a pretty neat thing to have all those people, speak on your behalf. But a college president, especially in today's world, is very busy and has so much going on. I mean, that's really impressive.
Well, for one thing, this is a relatively small school, right? Mm-hmm. We're not Columbia University. And the other thing is we're very proud of what this program means to the student body, to the administration, and to the alums. We don't always get it right, but we strive to get it right. We strive to put out a product that alums and everybody on this campus would be proud to watch. And so there is that engagement. And it's interesting. I had a coaching colleague out there who commented about that years ago. He said, your president comes to matches. And he said, if I bumped into my president and knocked his groceries onto the floor, I wouldn't know who he was. So, it's a family here, up and down the line. Joanne Berger-Sweeney is amazing. The other piece of this is we're so diverse. 11 different countries. We have many students of color in our program, different colors, but and we need to be doing that because it's the right thing to do. And we've been doing this now for 20 some odd years. I'll tell you, one of the more powerful moments I've had as a coach, when 9/11 happened. At that point in time, we had quite a few young men from India. The Egyptian trend is still relatively new. And 9/11 happened, and these images were on the television over and over all day long. We're close to New York City. When is the next shoe going to drop? Who's lost a father? Who's lost a cousin? And when I looked at the team, the images being shown on the TV screen similarly had same skin colors. I had two boys on the team that were Sikhs that wore headdress. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget that night. The president of the college called us to his house. And he said, "Men, I ask you, because we don't know what's going on. We're under attack. Please don't go anywhere where there are people drinking. Because I worry for your safety." That was stunning. And of course, there was no incident. This is just one big family. But it made me realize these guys are different. Well, now they're less different.
Yeah.
We're becoming much more diverse on this campus. We're celebrating this. And we were kind of the first in that pond.
Yeah.
And I can't emphasize that enough. It's a feeling good, really a good feel for us.
I mean, that's totally evident with everyone. The family. I've been to some of your events, and the people who are staying engaged is incredible. Talk to me a little bit more about this. Is I'm getting away from you and more about college squash, but the diversity in college squash. This is something that we're actively grappling with. We've done some surveys and. Recognizing we're representing over 50 countries across the world in college squash, and 41% of people of color from a couple of years ago. Seeing the game as it's evolved over the last, 25, 30 years. Talk about the importance of that diversity, not just at Trinity, but across all of college squash, and how important that is.
Our extracurricular activity should be representative of our society.
Yeah.
And we're striving to. We've been hit over the head with this recently, and unfortunately, change was about. I'm glad that we have it tied to the importance of embracing. And I can't look away from that anymore. When I first started in 76 as a coach, it was, unless you went to Exeter, belonged to the right club, your father was the CEO of some bank, you weren't playing this game. And now we are becoming more reflective of where side is hoping we can even be leaders. I can't emphasize enough, and I'm not just saying this because you're on this call, Dave. College squash is so much better for having you involved, and the board and the people that you have working for you. It was only several years ago that we were regulated by ourselves. Coaches were making huge decisions. How could we make decisions? We would like to think that we were impartial, but we weren't. And so we are becoming a healthy sport. I remember administrators looking at me like, you guys are no different than 150-pound football. You got no rules.
Yeah.
What do we do about this? Someone's misbehaved. Coaches are fighting in the gallery. I mean, what are we going to do about that? Now we have you. We have a squash, or it was under U.S. squash. And we do have that collaboration. And now we need to really embrace the mandate, the human mandate, to provide access to and embrace everybody. And I would contend to go in reverse. Because it's such a competitive environment, we need to get people from urban environments up to our standard.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think we need to continue to have levels and layers and embrace people from an urban environment that perhaps didn't have access to the same opportunities at a young age, but still give them this experience of being a participant in a college squash activity and a part of the big national.
Yeah, that's really spot on, and definitely efforts that we're working on in partnership with our friends at Squash Education Alliance and US Squash, and efforts we're heading towards. So hopefully we'll continue that. Well, winding down here, I want to give you an opportunity to thank anybody that's that's impacted you along the way, or that we didn't have you live on Thursday night, but we have you here now, so I'll give you the opportunity.
When you decide to thank someone, you invariably leave people out, and I do not want to leave out all of my sons out there, and as the U.S. national coach, also working with our women's team. What I would like to do is I would like to thank West Point. I'd like to thank the clubs that I've worked at. I'd like to thank Williams College, and I'd like to thank Trinity College, providing me a place to go every day and to grow and be better. And I hope tomorrow I'm better than I am today. I remember playing a match at Dartmouth when I was coaching at Army, and I was with a colonel there. He was our officer liaison, and he had fought in Vietnam. He was an amazing guy. And we were having these deep esoteric conversations. And he said to me, when they look back, what would you like them to remember? And, I think when I go into the big squash court in the sky, I'd like to think that maybe there's a whole bunch of people out there around the world with whom I shared time, who simply stop and smile and say that chapter we shared is ours, and it will be ours.
I'm not really a betting man, but I'd venture to say there's a pretty good chance of that happening.
Thank you, David.
We do have the luxury of getting comments live as people are watching, and we just got one from one of your former players who asked me to ask you, and if this is going haywire, feel free to tell me what we'll talk about another time. But Mustafa Hamada asked me to ask you about when President Obama called you.
That's a little haywire, but I was trying to help somebody help their child get into college. And this person's commented to me that, I think that Barack is a personal friend, and I think he'd like to write a letter for our child to go to Stanford. And I said, I don't think that's the right place for her. And so one day I'm driving down the road and I get this, would you hold for the president? And I'm thinking it's one of the guys making a joke or something.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I hear that voice. And I said, do you mind if I pull over to the side of the road? I'm just going to get some M&M peanuts. So, just crazy. It's crazy out there.
Well, that's a good one. And I'm sure you have plenty more like that. We'll and plenty more topics to chat with you about with your perspective. But I'm really grateful that you agreed to come on with me today. And again, hearty congratulations to you on your induction into the Hall of Fame. As John said last Thursday night, we are eager for the opportunity to gather in person in the future, so that many more people can join us in celebrating you and your career. Which of course is not over yet. So we're looking forward to jumping right back on court as soon as circumstances allow in the fall. But congratulations, Coach. Very grateful for your support.
And Mustafa, thank you for being the only alum that was actually watching this show.
No, you'd be surprised. I've seen a few other notes coming in. So you're a pretty popular guy, in case you didn't know that. And we're so grateful to have you in our association and as a important member of our membership and leader in our group. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, David. See you, Moods.
Congrats. We'll talk soon, Coach. Take care.